The tribe of Dan left a trail all over Europe wherever they travelled, and this was prophesied by Jacob that Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path. The snake, as it slithers along the ground, leaves a distinct trail or a track, and Dan did this by naming the places they travelled and settled in after their patriarch Dan. We see this demonstrated in the book of Judges. Dan was competing with the Philistines for their territory in the south Canaan, but 600 Danites sought a new territory in the north. On their way, they camped in a place in Judah, which the Danites called Manaher Dan, meaning camp of Dan. Then after they had smitten the people of Laish with the sword, they built a new city, calling it Dan. The children of Dan continued this practice in their migrations. In Hebrew, the name Dan is written Dalet Nun, and thus words like Dan, Din, Don, Dun, Den, or Dien correspond to the name Dan. Looking at the names of the rivers of Europe, we have the Danube, the Danieper, the Daniester, the Danau, the Daci, the Davy, the Dan, the Don, the Udon, and the Eridon. The country Denmark is certainly named after Dan, the mark of Dan. There are thousands of other Dans and many Vipers trails all across Europe.